capitalism and democracy, they go hand in hand, because you're not going to have people feeling like they can show up to work and be respected and really come forward and be present if they're working. And you also need capital and the markets to distribute where the capital is going to be invested. Without that, you're going to make a lot of decisions that are wrong. I studied communism and all the economies in the Eastern Bloc when I was in college, and it was really hard to get it right if you're doing it centrally with a 5-year plan. In fact, we know you're going to get it wrong. And it's the classic problem of how do you allocate the resources we have.
So I think that business being decentralized, again, needs to be monitored with the rulemaking government, edicts and so forth. But it's being decentralized and having this other cluster of independent authority and power is essential for democracy. Just the way that having labor unions out there essential for democracy, or journalists, or activists. You create kind of an ecosystem of decentralized power sources, which enable, I think, civic society and democracy to have a shot at flourishing. It's not automatic, but I think that all of those elements are important to allow democracy to flourish.
Democracy has a way of throwing up, to Gwill's point, the government-style regulation called for when it's time to get capitalism sort of back within the bounds of acceptable behavior. And so, in U.S. history, and also this is true in the UK and other places, when capitalism was at its roughest, when we had, child labor and tainted food and tainted drugs, et cetera, at least in the U.S., the democratic system rose up and created, the FDA, the FTC, et cetera. When capitalism, got itself really out of balance, called the Great Depression, what happened? The government ended up throwing up and creating, ideas such as Social Security, adopting some of those from the private sector. When capitalism, when we, at least in the United States, had a capitalist system that led to great poverty among older people, we created Medicare, so that in fact now, poverty is not an affliction of the elderly. So I actually think, a democratic system that allows people to speak to the problems that they have and elect representatives that will address those problems seems to be one of the ways that capitalism manages to right itself, at least in the American historical context.